Hey, fam jam. We are going to talk about another planet. This planet has been getting a lot of press lately, Pluto. It's been getting a lot of press because it is changing signs. As many of you know, recently moving from the sign of Capricorn to the sign of Aquarius. Pluto gets a lot of press for a lot of reasons, and it's justified. Pluto is the slowest moving, okay? It is actually not, in astronomy, they don't even call it a planet, okay? They call it more of like a dwarf planet because it's made of rock and ice. But my God, in astrology, it is the power planet, only discovered in 1930. And what's interesting is the period of time that it was discovered was the time when there was the rise of dictatorships and nuclear power was being experimented with. Pluto is named after the Roman god of the underworld, okay? Which is interesting. An 11-year-old girl actually named the planet. Fun fact. Pluto rules all things hidden under the surface. It is one of the most feared planets, and that is understandable. Its destructive power is unmatched. Even though it's a small planet, it's the most intense. It is a challenge to work with the energies of Pluto, but it is possible, and we need to learn to at least coexist and deal with Pluto in the best way that we can. Pluto is very, very far away from us here on Earth, okay? It represents, because it's so distant, it represents the shadow self, the subconscious, things underneath, things hidden, the darkest aspects of our existence. It's not for the weak at heart. No matter how much you want to believe otherwise, life is not always going to be fun. Pluto will see to that. Dealing with Plutonian experiences can lead to the most painful experiences of our lives, okay? Of course, you probably know that Pluto co-rules Scorpio, all right? Along with Mars. It is considered the higher octave of Mars. Mars is also can be a very destructive planet in general as well. You probably know that Pluto naturally rules the 8th house in astrology. And as such, when a person has Pluto in either Scorpio or their 8th house, Pluto would be considered in domicile, meaning at its strongest. Certainly, it is going to be stronger when it is conjunct other planets, like if it were to be conjunct Jupiter, the planet of expansion, or the sun, which illuminates, right? You've got to look at not only the house that Pluto is in, but also things that are conjunct, square, trine, and sextile and opposite of Pluto. Okay, Pluto takes 248 years to circle and go through all 12 zodiac signs. Compare that to the moon, which takes 28 days. Okay, the nodes, a year and a half, right? It just varies from planet to planet, but it's because it's so very far away. Okay, 248 years, about 3 lifetimes for the average human, right? It can be in a sign anywhere from 10 to 27 years. The reason for that large variation is because of retrogrades, okay? Many of you know that it went into Capricorn in 2008. It's just leaving, okay? So it's been in Capricorn for a bit, as you know. It teetered back and forth in Capricorn and Aquarius for a minute because of the retrograde and all this, right? But it's in now going to be in Aquarius for quite some time. So we refer to people sometimes because, okay, Pluto is going to be in the sign of Aquarius, right, for 20 years. So it's almost like that's an entire generation of people that are going to have Pluto and Aquarius in the birth chart. Now, where it differs is it's going to be different as far as the house that it's in. And to be honest with you, that matters more than the sign. Both are very important, particularly when we're talking about Pluto. This is going to be a major impactful area, no matter where it is in your chart. It is going to be significant. The themes of Pluto: death, rebirth, transformation, intensity, power, sex, the occult, the hidden, psychology, the subconscious, compulsions, everything hidden, other people's money, seduction, obsession, and again, death and birth. It is all about transformation. Pluto carries a lot of karma with it in our birth chart. I talked about karma a little bit in the birth chart with Saturn when I talked about Saturn recently. But these slower moving planets are all carriers of karma. And, you know, I didn't touch on this so much in the most recent video that I did about Saturn, but I should have. And that is karma in the birth chart. And we have wherever Saturn and Pluto and, you know, Neptune, Uranus, we're going to have past life karma associated with those areas that we have to deal with, okay, and break through. Now, let me say this about past life karma and my personal beliefs. This is just my opinion, and you can take it as that. Is it substantiated? No, but I firmly believe this, and I'm going to explain to you my beliefs on past life karma. I've said this before, but it bears repeating. I believe that we are all connected at a soul level. Our energy, we all came from the same source. We're all a little piece of source. And therefore, collectively, when we die, we just go back into that energy and then perhaps are reincarnated as a different type of human, whatever. I don't believe, okay, let's just take my chart, for example, full of karmic placements, okay? Absolutely chock full. Does that mean that I was an asshole in a past life? I don't, maybe not. I think that I have a soul contract with the divine that says, I'm going to do this, and this. I think it's collective past life karma. I think sometimes we take on more or less, depending on what kind of experience we want to have and we're willing to take. And I think a lot of the reason that before we come here, that we are compelled to take on karma is because it gives us a better opportunity for our soul ascension, even beyond this lifetime. That's my belief. You can take it or leave it. Nonetheless, wherever Pluto is in your chart is going to be very significant. Okay. So, literally, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That's Pluto's lessons. Dealing with Plutonic experiences are very painful. They are, you know, the Tower card is associated with Pluto in the tarot. Okay. So Pluto experiences happen abruptly, quickly, unexpectedly. They are intense and powerful. They can be violent and traumatic. Pluto has the power to do great destruction. Pluto's role is to transform what doesn't need to be in our lives. Often, when we have Tower moments, if we look back, we have had some warning signs and some gut feelings and some prodding from the universe telling us to get out of a situation, leave a situation, make the changes we need to make, etc. And it's as though we ignore those things, and Pluto comes in and basically gives us no choice. It takes us to our knees. It is very much going back to where you came from, to the beginning. It's like everything is in a pile of rubble. Everything you thought was that you held dear sometimes in a pile of rubble right before you. The thing you never thought that you would lose is the very thing that crumbles right in front of you. Pluto is also associated with digging under the surface. It wants to get rid of what doesn't serve you. So even though it can be a motherfucker to deal with, the goal of Pluto is for our highest good. It's the thing that takes us to rock bottom, where there's nowhere to go but up, where we have no choice but to change for the better. It rules psychotherapy, the psyche, okay? And the alchemy of the human psyche, which is shadow work. That is what Pluto is all about. It leads us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about life, love, happiness, relationships. It asks us to reconsider everything that we believed, and it turns our world upside down. It's very hard to keep faith. It's very hard to stay hopeful in those times. Pluto adds that intensity to everything that it touches. It's a very brutal, straightforward event. Plutonian events can even involve, and I'm going to be careful about the words I use here because I don't want to be censored. Even though this is not going to be a monetized video, I need to watch my wording. SA, okay, grape, violence, death, okay? Those things can be associated with Plutonian events. Very destructive, but it makes space for new and a better, more powerful version of you. We as humans have a tendency to get into a place where we're comfortable and we like permanency. We hold on to things that we're comfortable with, whether they are good for us or not. But Pluto teaches us to deal with change and to accept that nothing stays the same. It's inevitable, okay? The cycle of birth, growth, stagnation, declination, and death goes on and repeats itself in every aspect of our lives. And this is Pluto. We know deep down when something needs to be over, right? Pluto knows too. And Pluto says, do you need a little push? And if so, is willing to give it to you, right? When we have recurring patterns in our lives, okay, which we don't like meeting the same type of romance potentials over and over again, okay, while we don't really manifest normal, there's a hidden issue that's below the surface. And Pluto will sometimes come along when we ignore that repeating pattern and cause a major tower event, okay? Pluto cuts off the dead parts. It's about pruning and it hurts, okay? There's no anesthesia, okay? No lube, that. The best bet in dealing and managing with Plutonian experiences and avoiding the painful experiences is to let go of things voluntarily as soon as we realize that we need to. The more we are willing to cooperate with that, the less of a Plutonian push we will need. Wherever Pluto is in our chart shows where our soul craves change. This house that it's in is going to suggest which areas of life it can help your personality to actually level up. It's the ruler of life and death. It covers all major transitions from cradle to grave. It's also the planet associated with near-death experiences. A lot of people that have those near-death experiences will recount those and talk about how it made them rethink the way they live, realize their values, and change their whole way of living, okay? And it's the planet of rebirth on spiritual side too, all right? You know, I talked about this a little bit when I talked about Saturn. There are planets that are considered malefic or bad and benefic or good. But even a benefic planet like Jupiter or Venus can hurt us if we don't use it constructively, or if it has yucky aspects in the chart that we don't manage and work through, okay? So the negative side of Pluto includes a hunger for power, control, cruelty, and in general can be a destructive attitude, obsession, mania, the ultimate source of revenge and hate. Its position in the natal chart shows the areas in life that you can expect to experience these energies. But Pluto is the area of your very own powerhouse as well. So this can be destructive energy, but it can also work for your good in a powerful way. It is also a power that we need to see in our chart that we need to unlock. All right. But you've really got to focus on transforming that energy, alchemizing that energy, okay? And transmuting that energy so that it can work for our good. And it can absolutely give you power, okay? But we have to learn to manage this energy, okay? And a lot of our biggest challenges in life are going to show up wherever the area is that Pluto is in your chart, okay? So we're going to talk about how this may impact your chart, okay, based on where it is, all right? You know, again, if Pluto is conjunct, square, opposite another planet in your chart, in my case, Pluto opposes Saturn, that is a big power struggle right there. Big, big, difficult one. And Pluto is conjunct Uranus, which even more in my chart exacerbates that unexpected tower bomb going off that I never saw coming, right? And it is in my 4th house. So that has to do with childhood upbringing and the home, okay? And it can speak to violence in the home when it's in the 4th house. But let's talk about, you know, Pluto's the planet of extremes. It's the most powerful planet. So it shows our very biggest superpower that is hidden in our chart, but also the lowest place that we can be. It's the planet of extremes. And that's why it's so, so important to learn about this energy and how it affects you. So let's talk about it. And we talked about the houses in the Saturn video, but we're going to talk about it again in this video. The first house, your identity, your physical looks, your personality, who you are. It represents the first year of life sometimes, the first house, Aries, okay? If Pluto is in your 2nd house, that's going to affect your income streams, your spending, your earning, what you value, how you value yourself, okay? It can affect your stability, your sense of stability, okay? Your foundation. The 3rd house, okay, and that's Taurus. The 3rd house, Gemini ruled, and it's going to have to do with communication, written or oral, friends, siblings, neighbors, lower parts of your educational pursuits, the mind. That's another thing. Your mental faculties. Okay. That's another thing. The 4th house, home and family, either your physical dwelling or your upbringing or both. It can speak to abuse, domestic violence. It can lend itself to that lasting in your life, in your home, okay, unless it's managed properly, okay, and worked through in a healthy way. All right, that's something that is not just your upbringing when Pluto is there. It speaks to your entire life and your home life. It can, you know, it can speak to destruction around your home, okay. Somebody's home burning down or getting bombed or what the hell ever, I would look for, or being destroyed in a storm. I would really wonder if they had, especially if it happened repeatedly or if they found themselves without a home suddenly, I would look for Pluto in the 4th house for sure. Okay. Pluto in Cancer, okay, can speak to mom, okay, sometimes, or the home or the upbringing. All right. It can speak to SA in the home. The 5th house, that's in the areas of creativity, romance, dating, sexual encounters, children, and your inner child. So once again, very tough place to have Pluto. And SA would be another thing that would be here. Possible violence, from children, okay? Or you may have encountered violence when you were a child yourself, okay? Sixth house, work, health, daily routines, coworkers. I could see tower moments at the job involving coworkers, your daily routines, possibly in your health, okay? The seventh house is going to be partnerships, permanent partnerships. So when we talk about marriage and serious commitments and business partnerships, one-on-one friendships that are the lasting, more permanent type of one-on-one partnerships. It's also in areas of legalities and fairness. Contracts are associated with the seventh house. The eighth house, wow, that's the Scorpio house. That's the house that rules all things Pluto. So we get Pluto on Pluto. We get Pluto fucking around with Pluto shit. So we get sex, death, rebirth, obsession, all those sorts of energies that we've already talked about, okay? This is another house that would definitely lend itself with Pluto here to SA. All right. The ninth house, foreign cultures, travel, ethics, religion, spiritual beliefs, morals, okay? So you may have shakeups in like your church that affect you, shakeups in your spirituality and in your beliefs, okay? That sort of thing, all right? You may have some rough experiences traveling, all right? 10th house is the career reputation house. Career, reputation, achievements. That would be a tough place to have Pluto for sure, right? Definitely. The 11th house is your friend groups, the collective at large, clubs, how well we fit in or not, okay? Really tough place to have Pluto. The 12th house would be a difficult place because this is the house that rules spirituality and the subconscious, okay? And it is a karmic house as well, okay? The karmic houses in general in the chart are the 4th, 8th, and 12th house, and I have a water trine with those houses. So the majority of my planets are in the 4th, 8th, and 12th house in my chart. Okay, so it's pretty crazy. I have a very heavy karmic chart from the standpoint of past life karma. But anyway, this is a karmic place to have Pluto. This is going to be in areas of spirituality. The 12th house, as I said the other day, has to do with prisons, asylums, your mental health, your mental state of being, spirituality, solitude, feeling alone, isolated. It rules the subconscious. It rules our intuition. Okay. It's a foggy, 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 foggy house. Very, not very well understood. Not nearly as much so as the other houses. This is the least understood house. It is the house of sorrows in the chart as well. It is the basement of the zodiac where everything gets repressed. So I can imagine that having Pluto in the 12th house would be a royal bastard. Okay. So that being said, you know, some places that would be interesting would, well, I'm just going to make up some stuff. If you had Pluto conjunct your ascendant or your sun, that would be very difficult, but you could absolutely flip that shit and transmute it and become a fucking beast. That once, it would be hard, but man, once worked through, that is a beast as far as the hidden superpower of that thing. Right? Pluto conjunct Lilith would be another one. Woo! Pluto conjunct Uranus. That's a powerhouse. Okay. And that's, you know, I have that conjunction. But it, wherever it is and however it's aspected, is going to give you clues of what your hidden powers are, okay? What your hidden superpowers are. This is the thing that is going to absolutely give you the edge that is unique to you, that other people won't necessarily have. And everybody, even though there's only 12 zodiac houses, understand this. You've got a house and you've got a sign, and you've got the combination of that sign, right? And then you've got the aspects, okay, the squares, the trines, the sextiles, and the conjunctions. And so even though, there's only 12 houses, there is a plethora of ways that Pluto can show up uniquely to each person. And so that gives us a very unique hidden superpower that is absolutely gold. It'll be your kryptonite for a lot, but when you transmute it, it'll be your golden fucking ticket. It gives you the edge, but you got to do the work. You got to do the work. And it is important to delve into this area in your birth chart and really develop an understanding with it and resolve. It is there. We all have Pluto somewhere. We all do. And it's up to us to look at this and figure out what it is and decide if we're going to whine about it and we're going to be a victim to it, or if we're going to turn it into a superpower. You can let it drive your car, or you can drive it, and it's up to you. All right. So here's to making friends with Pluto. Here's to appreciating the good things that Pluto can bring, right? And here's to accepting that the bad stuff probably had to do with past life collective karma that doesn't have a damn thing to do with you. In that case, it's not your fault it happened to you. It's only your responsibility to process through it, heal it, work through it, and make it your superpower. I hope this has helped you guys. Pluto is a sign that a planet that fascinates me a lot. I want to speak about one more thing that is very important about Pluto. Plutonic connections in synastry and composite romance charts. This creates obsession, stalker vibes, right? Pluto is the one that has to do with that. When you yourself in your own chart have a hard aspect between Pluto and another planet, such as your sun, your moon, your nodes, or your Venus, you are going to have a tendency to get obsessive about romance or people, or just in general obsessive. And this can even lend itself to being an addictive personality, okay? When you have this showing up between two people, all right, where one person's Pluto aspects the other person's sun, node, moon, or Venus, right? Even Mars, okay? That is going to create obsessive energy. It is going to be a really difficult, that is, in my opinion, probably the most difficult thing to navigate in romance. If you have never experienced it, I hope you never do. I would not wish that experience on my worst enemy. And I have been in a Plutonic connection. I didn't know it at the time until afterwards. And I can tell you that 7 years after that romance ended, no contact at all, no communication, he still hits my energy sometimes. And it's because he doesn't understand and cannot work through his side of things. So when he thinks about me, it invades my energy. Do I want this person back? No, it would absolutely destroy my life because it was a Plutonic connection. Very, very destructive. Okay. It would absolutely destroy my life. But at the same time, I don't wish it on anyone. It is a super, 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 super intense connection. It can feel ethereal. The sex can absolutely be bomb because we are talking about Pluto energy coming into play here. It can feel like the best thing ever, but when it's bad, it is so bad. And I will tell you, this relationship is what took me to rock bottom. So literally, the tower that happened with this relationship is why I do what I do today. So Pluto fascinates me. I love Pluto energy. This is one reason why I'm so fascinated with the sign of Scorpio, okay? And I've said this about Scorpios, and I'll say it again. I've dealt with a lot of Scorpios in my life. I've never had an experience with a Scorpio that was not completely transformative. And by the way, the Plutonic romantic connection that I'm referring to was not a Scorpio. And to my knowledge, has no Scorpio in his chart. Water sign, but not Scorpio. But that being said, if you've ever experienced a Plutonian or Plutonic connection, not Platonic, but Plutonic, okay, you will have such an aversion to it that it will be something that you screen for. I screen for that very early on when I start dealing with someone. And if I see it in the chart, it's a deal breaker. Nothing personal, but we ain't going to happen. I will not ever risk putting myself in that situation ever again. The best way I know to describe how that felt, I wanted that person back so much, and it was an obsession. It was very, very much obsessive. I wanted that person back for years, okay? I stalked that person for years. It was ridiculous, okay? The person that I turned into, okay? It brought out the very ugliest parts of myself that I didn't know were there, right? Nonetheless, I would not ever want to be in that predicament again. And the way that I know to describe how I felt, I knew that that person coming back into my life would ruin my life, and yet I wanted it anyway. I want you to ruin my life. I want you to ruin my life. It is nothing short of an addiction. It's just like how, drugs can kill us, and yet we want more of it. It was the same thing. I was absolutely addicted. And when I went through the breakup with that person, the only way I know to describe that experience is the exact same words that I hear recovering addicts use when they are in withdrawals. Okay. I'm not going to sit and say that it's the same. I've never gone through withdrawals from drugs, and I don't know. But if withdrawing from drugs is any worse than that, I never want to have to go through that, because it was a special hell. So trust and believe. Pluto is going to be the thing that changes your entire life. Am I thankful for that experience? I'm living my best life because of it, right? Because here we are. It changed my life. It changed my entire view on spirituality. It brought me to a place where I learned to heal and do shadow work, because Pluto rules the subconscious, right? And I healed all those wounds that were decades old and mounting and just creating major problems for me. And ultimately, my passion came from that. The phoenix that came out of that rubble is who you are looking at today, that teaches shadow work and healing and astrology and tarot and spirituality. And that's the beauty that Pluto brought about. It was a very ugly experience to experience, but the beautiful me on the other side of it, I wouldn't take $1 million for where I am. That's Pluto. Very intense transformational energy. All right. And that's my personal story involving Pluto. I know this video went a little bit long, but I hope it was helpful. There's so much to say about Pluto, and I probably could talk another hours and hours on end about Pluto and not cover everything. But I hope I have inspired you to look into your own chart and see how Pluto is impacting you and where that hidden superpower is. All right. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much. Bye, y'all.